Hello there and welcome to Nowhere to Hide. I'm Brian Hyde. Today we're going to talk about school choice. Of course, you know that HB 93 passed in the legislature this last session. That was a huge accomplishment, but now someone's coming gunning for it. You won't be surprised at all when I tell you who it is.
All reporters are biased, the Idaho Press Club are biased, all media, newspaper, radio.
To be completely blunt here, Brian, and there are plans to expand
indoctrination.
That's right.
Well, Idahoans are also concerned.
Horror shot. That line would be moving a little bit farther west.
I'm like crying.
Nobody wants to see
Dark money is influencing policy in our state.
Well, that's not how this works.
Once again, welcome to Nowhere to Hide. You know, the issue of school choice, particularly parental school choice for their kids, has been a very hard-fought issue here in Idaho. It's taken us years to get that thing across the finish line, but it happened in the last legislative session, and starting in January, there are families lining up to take advantage of a tax credit, not a voucher, a tax credit that they can apply to their child's education, be it in a private school, homeschool situation, or whatever the case may be. The point is they have alternatives. Now, there was a lot of weeping and wailing at the time that it was passed. I believe the teachers union and others said, hey, we made the most noise. Why did this thing pass anyway? And they just can't fathom the idea that because maybe parents actually want choice for their kids. But that isn't going to stop at least one school district in Moscow, Idaho, from suing, yes, filing a lawsuit using taxpayer dollars to block that new private school tax credit. This is from Idaho Ed News from a couple of days ago. A coalition has filed to block the implementation of that. Now let's talk about what they're actually going for. And I want you to be aware of some of the weasel language that is used here to mislead people and make them think that why this is a noble thing, the foxes getting together to guard the hen house, so to speak. But it comes down to the bureaucracy versus families. So the coalition, which includes the Idaho Education Association, the Moscow School District, and two advocacy groups, held a news conference earlier this week at the State House in Boise. Leaders for the group said they were filing the petition with the Idaho Supreme Court. Now, the petition asks justices to declare HB 93's tax credit unconstitutional and to block the Idaho State Tax Commission from implementing it. The program violates the Idaho Constitution's requirement, they say, that the state establish and maintain a general, uniform, and thorough system of public, free, common schools. This is what the coalition argues. Now, nowhere in those 14 words, and boy, they really emphasize those 14 words, those are the things that matter, does it say that there cannot be an alternative. Nowhere does it say it's exclusively a general, uniform, thorough system of free, public, common schools. I think Governor Little actually alluded to this when he signed it into law, saying we can have the best of both worlds. For those parents who want school choice, this will work for them, albeit on a limited basis. But $50 million, I believe, was appropriated to make sure that this program could get off the ground. But those 14 words are simple yet profound. And attorney Daniel Mooney says that HB 93 has no basis in them. Now, he's part of the Committee to Protect and Preserve the Idaho Constitution. I think they used the word Constitution where it should have said Education Bureaucracy, but that's one of the advocacy groups involved in the coalition. Now, recipients of the tax credit scheduled to launch in January are eligible for up to $5,000, or if you're dealing with a student with special needs, $7,500 covering private school tuition and other expenses for non-public education. Okay, it needs to be said here. This is not a matter of money that is in the state's coffers being transferred through state administrative hands, these parents' checking account or bank account or wallet or hand. It's tax credit. In other words, taxes that don't have to pay because they're putting that money toward their students' education, an education of the parents' choosing, which is what that choice is all about. Who knows best? Whose kids are they in the first place? Well, wait till you see what the teachers unions have to say, and you'll see that there's a little disagreement on whose kids they really are. Nonetheless, the lawsuit is being filed, and other plaintiffs in the lawsuit include Mormon Women for Ethical Government and several individuals, including former Republican State Superintendent Jerry Evans and current Representative Stephanie Mickelson from Idaho Falls. So, I like how Josh Tanner put it. He says a public school board is so afraid that families will choose other options that they're suing the state, and they're doing it with your tax dollars. Unbelievable. And it really is a matter of The bureaucracy is very frightened of competition. And really, that's what this comes down to. This is not about seeing to it that the students get the best possible education that they need. In fact, as we've talked about before on this program, when it comes to proficiency scores, the public education system is struggling and has been for some time. But that doesn't stop the Idaho Education Association from maintaining, well, the problem is we've been starved of funds for all this time, and they're just not supporting the public school system enough. For crying out loud, do you know the extent, how much money is actually spent on the public school system, as a percentage basis of the Idaho's overall state budget? It's enormous. It's billions of dollars, and many of these school districts rather are sitting on, a rainy day fund of hundreds of millions of dollars. It's not for lack of money. I think the problem is lack of competition. And here's where I'm coming from. If you have a monopoly, if you have control of a system and people don't really have an alternative outside of the system, even if you offer them a few little, well, we have this program, but it's still part of the system, that's not really competition. And you don't have to produce the results that you say you're going to produce, because where else are they going to go? Well, with this school choice, with this school tax credit, parents have that choice. And it's very clear. The issue here is control. It's not about we've got to take better care of the schools. So I wanted to share with you, this is from Brian Allman from the Gem State Chronicle. Public school establishment sues Idaho families. And I love this example that he uses because I think this will hit home for a lot of people. Where else do we hear about tax credits? Okay, how about the grocery tax credit? Now he says, you've heard of that, right? When you file your taxes next year, you can claim $155 per person in your household to offset taxes paid on food throughout the year. Now, yeah, you have to do a little bookkeeping, and there are a few hoops to jump through, but that tax credit is basically money that you don't have to pay in your taxes, when it comes time to have that reckoning. So now imagine that in addition to Winco, Albertsons, Whole Foods, and Trader Joe's, the state of Idaho operated a grocery store chain. And then imagine that the state-owned grocery store sued over the tax credit because families might choose to spend that money at private stores instead. Now he says it sounds crazy, but that's exactly what just happened, only with schools instead of groceries. Now, Brian Allman says, we already know the teachers union is no friend to Idaho families. Its leaders keep dishonestly labeling the tax credit a voucher, no doubt because they know the word scares people. And he says, if we can't trust the IEA to be honest with a single word, how can we trust them with children's education? That's a good point. They just found a focus group word that works. And they've also pledged to spend big money against any legislator who supported school choice. Now, looking back at the 2024 election, the union endorsed 13 Republicans. I'm not going to read their names for you, but if you look down that list, you'll see some pretty familiar names. And Brian says, wouldn't you know it? Every single one of these names voted against House Bill 93, which created the parental choice tax credit. In other words, they're carrying water for the Idaho Education Association. But he says beyond the lawsuit remains the question of how do you deal with the teachers union and public education establishment that's actively hostile to Idaho families and our values. Now keep in mind, the IEA endorsed nearly every Democrat it could in 2024, along with the most liberal Republicans. And its parent group, the National Education Association, sent more than 98% of its donations to Democrats in the last cycle. In fact, if you look at the IEA website, they will tell you, well, this is for IEA members. This is for Idaho educators. This is for Idaho students. Notice they're clear down the list here. They're like third in a row. And then there's the last one is, and for Idaho, for Idaho. But it's about taking care of the bureaucracy and taking care of those who maintain the bureaucracy rather than getting the results. Look, the proficiency scores tell us something is not working. And it's been this way for years. It's not just a fluke. Well, that happened one time and, we've got to figure out a way to fix it. The fix is found in competition. And that's what school choice offers, even on a limited basis. They know that if parents say, hey, this actually worked and we were able to choose for our kids what would work best for them, other parents will likely follow suit because word has a tendency to spread. So the lawsuit's being filed. Of course, we probably should have foreseen this coming. And, with that January deadline coming up that families are waiting to take advantage of this school credit program, I'm sure there were a few people feeling a little bit nervous. Well, let me give you some good news, okay? This is possibly the best news that I can give you. This news just came out this afternoon. The Not the part about the Idaho taxpayers subsidizing the very people who just sued us over school choice, but how about this? The Partnership for Educational Choice is stepping in to defend Idaho's new school choice program from this legal challenge. Just a couple of quick thoughts from them. Today, the Partnership for Educational Choice, a joint project of the Institute for Justice and EdChoice, announced its intention to intervene in a lawsuit filed this week by the Idaho Education Association. The lawsuit challenges the state's new school choice tax credit program. Thomas Fisher, Executive Vice President and Director of Litigation at EdChoice Legal Advocate, says the Idaho Parental Choice Tax Credit is a landmark step forward for education freedom in Idaho. It empowers parents, not bureaucrats, to decide what learning environment best serves their children. We will stand firmly against efforts to roll back this progress and ensure Idaho families keep the choices they have fought so hard to secure. I mean, if there's anything worse than, well, we want to take away that opportunity for you to have the choice about where that money goes to bring the best educational experience for your student. The only thing worse about being sued to stop that is being sued with your own taxpayer dollars to stop that. Well, it sounds like there might be some relief in sight. And of course, we will definitely keep you posted right here on this program. I'm Brian Hyde, and this is Nowhere to Hide.
All reporters are biased. The Idaho Press Club are biased. All media, newspaper, radio.
To be completely blunt here, Brian, and there are plans to expand
indoctrination.
That's right.
Idahoans are also concerned.
Horror shot.
That line would be moving a little bit farther west.
I'm like crying.
Nobody wants to see
Dark money is influencing policy in our state.
Well, that's not how